Hey, Alicia, ready for another deep dive for vibrations and manifestations?
Absolutely, Jared. I think this one is going to be really interesting.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're just really glad you're here, sitting right here in the room with us for this one.
Yeah, truly. Welcome in. And, we really want to treat you like you're just on the couch with us today. Grab a coffee or, whatever you need and just settle in.
Exactly.
Okay.
And before we even get into the heavy stuff today, we were literally just laughing before we hit record about, well, mostly about your morning, actually.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so I have to share this because it is just so perfectly embarrassing for the topic we're covering today. So, this morning, I decided I was going to tackle the pantry, like a full
The
reorganization.
dangerous territory of the pantry.
Right, like taking everything out, wiping the shelves, the whole nine yards. And I had a clear goal. I'm in the zone, right? I'm pulling out expired cans of beans from like 3 years ago.
Classic.
And halfway through, my phone buzzes on the counter. And I thought it was a text from a client, so I wipe my hands, I pick it up, and I don't know what happened, but fast forward 15 minutes later,
A few minutes.
at least 15 minutes. I am standing completely frozen in the middle of my kitchen. I have a glass jar of rice in one hand, completely oblivious to my surroundings, just deep, deep in a scrolling loop,
Just totally gone.
completely gone, vacated the premises. And the only reason I snapped out of it, the only reason the spell broke was because I suddenly felt eyes on me. I look down, and my dog is sitting there, just staring at me.
Oh, man. They always know.
They really do. You know that intuitive, piercing stare animals give you, where they just look right through your soul?
Oh, yeah. It's like they're saying, hello, are you in there?
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
this visceral reminder that, like, my physical body was standing in my house holding groceries, but my consciousness was just completely absent.
That animal stare is really the ultimate reality check.
Yeah.
Because they know when we're gone, they feel the energy shift. And honestly, I think that is the perfect exact anchor for what we're doing today.
Yeah, I agree.
Because look, if you're listening right now, we're not here to give you some dry productivity lecture, you know?
Oh, absolutely not.
We aren't here to scold you about your screen time report or hand you some punishing, rigid daily schedule. This deep dive is really a story-driven workshop about what it actually means to show up for your own life.
Right. It's about how attention is just quietly, almost invisibly replacing presence.
Yeah. And to really get there, to do that work today, we have to stay in that uncomfortable feeling for a moment, that specific spiral of distraction. Because it rarely starts as this massive, dramatic disruption.
No, it starts as a whisper. It starts as this tiny impulse to, like, just read one more opinion, just check one more notification, just in case.
Right. You open your phone because you actually need to figure something out. Like maybe you're checking the weather for the weekend, or you need to reply to a time-sensitive email from your boss.
You have a purpose.
Exactly. You have a purpose. You unlock the screen. And then 20 minutes later, you find yourself staring at a completely unrelated feed. You are reading a vicious, heated argument in a comment section about a movie you haven't even seen.
Oh my gosh. Yes, or you're watching a stranger organize a spectacularly unachievable refrigerator in, like, hyperspeed.
Yes, the perfectly labeled bins.
Yeah.
And then you finally snap out of it. You lock the screen. You look up and think about how you feel in that moment. You don't feel informed. You don't feel rested.
About it all.
You feel scattered. You feel a little more anxious and strangely drained. The original purpose for opening the device is completely, totally gone.
Mm.
Today, our mission is to take a stack of research from the 19th century philosophy of William James to modern neuroscience from the Huberman Lab to the computer science frameworks of Newport, and understand exactly why that scattered feeling is not an accident.
And you let the noise multiply. Right. You are standing in your kitchen, physically safe, holding a jar of rice, but your nervous system is pinging with the adrenaline of a dozen different narratives. You start second-guessing your own thoughts, your own pace, your own intuition. And simply because the sheer volume of external input is just deafening.
It really is deafening. Let me try to put words to how this feels in the body, because it's an incredibly specific sensation.
Please do.
Living in this modern state of constant digital distraction, to me, it feels like trying to tune an old-school analog radio. You know, the ones with the big dial?
Oh, yeah. With the static.
Yeah, the static. You are turning the dial very carefully, trying to find your station. You're trying to lock onto the frequency of your own life, your own internal voice. But the problem is there is someone else's hand on the dial, and they are constantly aggressively spinning it.
Wow, that is a phenomenal way to describe it.
Right, because you hear these bursts of music or maybe a fragment of a terrifying news broadcast or a sudden burst of harsh static, but you can never actually settle on clear station. You're trapped in the space between frequencies.
You're hearing everything, but you're listening to nothing.
Exactly. You're listening to absolutely nothing.
And I think we really have to confront what that static actually does to us, because
Yeah.
the cost isn't just that we feel a bit disorganized or that my pantry doesn't get cleaned.
Right. It's so much bigger than the chores.
It is deeply relational. It is deeply emotional. And I actually want to share something that happened to me recently. And to be honest, it requires some vulnerability to admit this because it goes right to the heart of our failure to be present.
Take your time. We're right here.
Thanks. So I was sitting in my living room and I was talking with someone I love deeply. And I was physically there. My body was on the couch, the lighting was cozy, I was nodding at all the right cadences.
You were doing all the mechanical things.
Exactly, I was making eye contact, but my mind was just gone.
Where did your mind go? Like, what was pulling you away in that moment?
It was this invisible, heavy, mental to-do list. I was ruminating over an unanswered text from a colleague that felt, I don't know, slightly passive-aggressive, and I was mentally mapping out this complex schedule for the following week, worrying about a deadline.
Yeah, spinning the dial.
Spinning the dial. And meanwhile, the person I love was sharing something real, something from their day that truly mattered to them. And then there was this horrifying moment of realization.
Oh, no. What happened?
They paused, they asked a question, and they just waited for my response. And my mind snapped back to the room, and I realized I had absolutely no idea what they had just said, not a single word.
Man, that is heavy. What happens in your body in that specific second when you realize you missed it?
The first feeling wasn't guilt. I think we assume it's guilt, but guilt is cognitive, right? Guilt came a few minutes later. The immediate physical feeling was this profound, quiet grief.
Grief, yeah.
It was this painful, undeniable realization that a fragile, real moment of human connection had been offered to me right there in the safety of my own home, and I was not there to receive it. The lights were on, but the house was completely empty. I had abandoned them while looking right at them.
I think everyone listening right now recognizes that exact flavor of quiet grief. Like, we've all been the empty house.
We really have.
It actually happened to me a few weeks ago in a slightly different context, but the fallout was identical. I was sitting with a close friend at a cafe. We hadn't seen each other in months, and we had moved past that superficial catch-up phase. And you know how a conversation suddenly drops an octave?
Yes, the energy just shifts, the tone gets softer, the pacing slows down.
Exactly. The sensory details of that moment are basically burned into my brain because of how abruptly it was shattered. I can hear the clinking of the ceramic mugs on the saucers. I can literally smell the heavy, bitter scent of the roasted espresso beans in the air.
It's so visceral.
It is. I could hear this sudden, vulnerable tremor in my friend's voice. They were leaning over the small wooden table and they were opening up about a significant personal struggle, something they admitted they hadn't told anyone else.
Oh, wow. So they were really trusting you.
Deeply trusting me. And right in the middle of their sentence, my phone, which was sitting face down on the table, vibrated. It was this harsh, mechanical buzz against the wood.
It's like a physical intrusion into the space.
It's violent. And my reaction was entirely involuntary. My eyes darted from my friend's face to the black rectangle of the phone. It was a fraction of a second, a millimeter of movement, but the damage was instantaneous.
What did they do?
I saw the visible deflation in my friend's shoulders. They physically shrank back into their chair. I felt the sudden, heavy silence drop between us like a lead weight. The vulnerability, the trust, the energy, it completely evaporated from the room.
That is so painful. But we really need to talk about why that happens biologically, because deep listening isn't just an auditory function, It's not just sound waves hitting your eardrum and your brain decoding the language.
Right. It's so much more than data transfer.
Deep listening physically bonds two people together. When you are truly present with someone, your nervous systems begin to synchronize. Your breathing aligns. Mirror neurons fire. There's a literal physiological tether forming between the two of you in that space.
A tether. I love that image.
And when you break eye contact for a piece of glass, you aren't just interrupting a sentence. You are physically severing that biological tether in real time.
You are sending this microscopic but devastating signal that says whatever potential dopamine hit is waiting on this screen is more important than your vulnerability.
Which is exactly why the grief is so real. It's a loss of connection. So to the person listening to us right now, we really want to ask you directly, what When did this happen to you today?
Yeah, think about it.
When were you in the room, physically taking up space, but your awareness was somewhere else entirely? Help yourself recognize these patterns of digital distraction. But, and this is vital, do not wrap it in shame.
Right. Shame is a trap.
Shame keeps us stuck in the loop. Shame creates tension, and tension breeds more distraction. Just witness it. Notice the moments when your body was present, but your consciousness was wandering the digital ether.
I love that, just witnessing it. But I do want to push back on something here for a second. We always talk about this as a purely modern digital problem. But is it? Because it feels like human beings have always been prone to distraction. We just have shinier tools for it now, right?
You're entirely right to push back on that. It's a great point, because the fundamental human struggle for attention is not new. Which brings us to William James.
Okay, yes. Let's talk about William James.
Long before smartphones, before the internet, before literally any of the algorithms we navigate today, there was a man who essentially diagnosed our modern condition.
William James, the 19th century philosopher and the father of American psychology. But, let's not paint him as some dusty academic sitting up in an ivory tower, totally detached from reality.
No, not at all. William James's insights were born out of absolute terrifying desperation. In his late 20s, he suffered from profound, debilitating inner paralysis.
He was really struggling.
Deeply. He had severe bouts of depression and anxiety where he literally felt unable to act. He wrote in his diaries about this panic fear that would grip him. He felt entirely unable to make a decision, unable to feel anchored in his own life. He felt like he had no free will.
He felt like he was just at the mercy of the wind.
Exactly. Adrift in a sea of his own chaotic, intrusive thoughts.
So he wasn't studying the mind as a detached observer. He was a man fighting for his own survival, using his own mind as the laboratory. He was trying to figure out how to simply exist without falling apart.
Exactly. And the revelation that essentially saved his life, the core insight that he built his entire subsequent philosophy upon, was this. He realized that the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, of character, and of will.
Let that land for a second for everyone listening. The root of judgment, character, and will. He's not talking about focus as a way to get more emails answered by 5 p.m.
Right. It's not a life hack.
He is talking about focus as the fundamental building block of human identity.
He wrote that an education which should improve this faculty would be the education par excellence. He understood that what you pay attention to literally constitutes your reality. If you cannot control your attention, you cannot control your life, you have no will.
Your character is just an accidental collection of whatever random stimuli happen to pass through your awareness.
Precisely.
But okay, this brings up a terrifying paradox for us today. Because if William James was right, and neuroscientists today emphatically agree that he was, if attention is the foundation of character and free will, what happens when we live in a society where our foundation is constantly being extracted, redirected, and monetized?
That is the tragedy of our era, because Silicon Valley engineers are incredibly well-read, they understand William James, and they have effectively reverse-engineered his philosophy to weaponize our psychology against us. They know that if they capture your attention, they capture your will.
Wait, walk me through that. How exactly are they weaponizing it? Because I feel like it's easy to just blame the algorithm as this vague boogeyman, right? Like, oh, the algorithm made me do it. But I want to understand the actual mechanics. How do we bridge the philosophy of William James with the modern reality of the attention economy?
To understand that, we have to look at the neuroscience. We really have to look at the work coming out of the Huberman Lab and the structural analysis of computer science professors like Newport. And Newport makes a crucial clarification right up front, which is important. The internet itself is not the enemy.
Okay, so it's not the tech itself.
Right. Having access to the world's information or being able to email a colleague across the globe is not what's draining our souls.
Right. The utility of the internet is incredible. It connects us.
The issue is that specific applications, primarily social media, endless scroll news feeds, and constant communication tools, are engineered at massive expense to hack our neural pathways. They are designed by teams of the brightest behavioral psychologists on the planet using a concept called the multi-armed bandit.
Okay, stop there. What is a multi-armed bandit? Explain that to me like I'm 5 years old.
Okay, imagine you walk into a casino and you see a row of slot machines. In probability theory, a slot machine is a one-armed bandit. You pull the lever, and occasionally, unpredictably, you get a reward.
Right. The unpredictability is the hook.
Exactly. That unpredictability is what hooks the brain. Now, a multi-armed bandit is a complex algorithm that tests thousands of different slot machines on you simultaneously to find out exactly which type of reward at what specific time of day, delivered in what specific color or notification style, will keep you pulling the lever.
Wait. So when I open an app, I am essentially sitting down at a slot machine that has been dynamically tailored to my specific psychological vulnerabilities in real time.
Precisely. They are optimizing for one singular metric.
Yeah.
Dwell time. How long can they keep your eyes on the glass? And they achieve this by hijacking your neurobiology. When you swipe a screen or when you see that little red notification dot, you are triggering the release of dopamine and norepinephrine.
And dopamine isn't just about feeling good, right?
Right. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about anticipation. It drives the craving. It's the neurochemical that says, pay attention to this, something novel is about to happen. Is there a new, a shocking piece of news, a message from an ex?
And because it's intermittent and unpredictable, the dopamine system never turns off. It's just constantly revved up, waiting for the next hit.
Which creates a state that researcher Linda Stone coined as continuous partial attention. We are never fully focused on the task in front of us, but we are also never fully rested. We are constantly subconsciously monitoring our environment for the next digital ping.
Just waiting for the vibration.
And Cal Newport points out that this creates an absolute cognitive disaster in the brain.
Because of the task switching, right? Because we're jumping back and forth.
Yes. Our brains possess complex networks for processing information. Newport explains that moving your focus from a deep conversation to a quick text message and then back to the conversation requires a massive expenditure of neural energy. You have to actively inhibit the semantic networks related to the conversation, load up entirely new networks for the text message, process it, inhibit those networks, and then reverse the entire process to try and get back into the conversation.
Okay, let me try a metaphor for this, because inhibiting semantic networks sounds a bit clinical.
Go for it.
It sounds to me like having a team of stagehands working in a theater. You have this elaborate, beautiful set built for a Shakespeare play. That's your deep conversation with your friend. Then your phone buzzes. You force those stagehands to sprint out, tear down the entire Shakespeare set, build a completely different set for a modern sitcom, which is the text message. And then the exact moment you look up from the phone, you scream at the stagehands to tear down the sitcom set and rebuild the Shakespeare set. All in the span of 30 seconds.
That is exactly what your brain is doing. It's perfect.
No wonder we feel so exhausted.
Yeah.
If you force those mental stagehands to do that heavy lifting 40, 50, 100 times a day, by 3 p.m., they are going to strike. They are going to quit.
They do quit. The engine burns out. And this brings us to a concept Newport discusses that I think is one of the most critical health issues of our time. Solitude deprivation.
Solitude deprivation. Let's dig into that. What does that actually mean?
Well, Newport defines solitude very specifically. He does not mean being physically alone in a cabin in the woods. He defines solitude as a psychological state where your mind is completely free from the input of other human minds.
Okay, so it's an internal state.
Right. It is the ability to just be with your own thoughts, your own internal environment.
So reading a book wouldn't be solitude because you are processing the author's mind.
Correct. Listening to an audiobook, even a helpful one, is not solitude. For the vast majority of human history, solitude was simply unavoidable. You walked 2 miles to the market, you had solitude. You waited in line for bread, you had solitude. You sat by a fire at night, you had solitude.
The gaps were built in.
But today, because of the smartphone, it is entirely possible to go days, weeks, or even months without a single waking moment free from the stimuli of other human minds.
You wake up and immediately check the news. You listen to a podcast on the commute. You answer emails and Slack messages all day. You scroll feeds while waiting in line for coffee. You watch streaming shows until you fall asleep. The input is relentless. The channel is never, ever empty.
And here is the biological toll. Processing the input of other human minds is one of the most cognitively expensive tasks our brains perform. We are highly social creatures. Our brains dedicate massive amounts of energy to understanding social hierarchies, simulating other people's emotional states, interpreting their tone, judging their intentions.
Right, our brains are wired to track the tribe.
Yes. So when you force your brain to do that relentlessly from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, it leads directly to profound brain exhaustion and pervasive anxiety.
Yeah.
You are quite literally starving your brain of the quiet space it requires to consolidate memory, process emotion, and generate original thought.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't being completely alone with your own thoughts sometimes a bad thing? I know plenty of people, myself included sometimes, who struggle with anxiety. Sitting alone with my thoughts can feel terrifying. Isn't distraction a valid, sometimes necessary coping mechanism?
It's a really important distinction to make. Yes, sitting with your own thoughts can be deeply uncomfortable, especially if you are carrying unprocessed grief, anxiety, or trauma. And distraction is absolutely a coping mechanism, but we have to differentiate between numbing and processing.
Numbing versus processing.
When you constantly use the digital pacifier to numb the discomfort of your own mind, you never allow the brain to actually process the underlying emotion. You are just kicking the can down the road, and the anxiety usually comes back louder, requiring a heavier dose of distraction. True psychological solitude is the only environment where your brain can safely unpack and metabolize those difficult feelings.
So we have the scientific mechanics. We understand the multi-armed bandits, the exhaustion of our mental stagehands, the starvation of solitude deprivation. But science only tells us the how. It explains the biological mechanism. I want us to move into the why it matters.
Yes, the deeper layer.
We need to look at the spiritual dimension of this. Because when I sit at that cafe and ignore my friend, the loss doesn't just feel biological, it feels like a spiritual failure. We need to contrast the scientific mechanics of attention with the spiritual depth of presence.
I agree completely. Science maps the terrain, but spirituality tells us why the terrain is sacred. Let's clearly define the difference between attention and presence, because they are not the same thing.
Break it down for us.
Attention is cognitive. It is the direction of your mental focus. It is the flashlight of your mind. But attention can be incredibly narrow, tight, and anxious. You can give your rapt attention to a spreadsheet while your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are up to your ears, and your breathing is shallow. You are attentive, but you are completely disconnected from your body.
Right. Attention is mechanical, but presence is something entirely different. Presence is full-bodied awareness. It includes your breath. It includes your emotional state. It includes the feeling of gravity pulling your feet against the floorboards. It includes your relational, energetic grounding with the people in the room with you.
Presence is attention infused with being. It is the realization that you are not just a floating brain processing data inputs. You are a living, breathing entity occupying a specific moment in space and time.
And this is where it intersects deeply with what we talk about on this show regarding manifestation and creating our reality. Because the foundational universal rule of manifestation is simple. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Exactly. If your attention is constantly being harvested by algorithms, if your focus is fractured across 100 trivial notifications, then your creative power is fragmented. You are leaking your manifestation energy into the digital ether.
You're bleeding out your energy.
You cannot manifest a life that you are not present enough to perceive. Manifestation is rarely about a magic spell. It is about recognizing the opportunities, the subtle shifts, the serendipitous moments that arise to meet your intentions. And you will miss every single one of those moments if your eyes are glued to a piece of glass.
This brings us to a segment we call Manifestation Debug Mode. And listen, consider this a loving confrontation. We aren't here to scold you. We are here to hold up a mirror. We want to ask you 3 warm but very serious, piercing questions. And I want you to let these questions actually land in your body. Don't just brush past them.
Question 1. Are you asking the universe for signs while actively training your brain to miss subtlety?
Really think about that. You are asking for a massive breakthrough in your career or your personal life, but your nervous system is so accustomed to the high decibel, flashing light noise of constant stimulation that you can no longer hear the quiet, intuitive whisper of your own gut.
Question 2. Are you asking for deeper, more meaningful relationships while giving the people you love the leftover exhausted scraps of your attention?
You want to be seen. You want to be deeply known. You want true intimacy. But when your partner or your friend or your child speaks to you, are they getting the full weight of your presence, or are they getting the fractured version of you that is simultaneously composing a work email in your head?
And question 3. Are you manifesting clarity while filling every single quiet space in your life with noise?
You cannot receive clarity if the receiver is jammed. Manifestation, intuition, divine guidance, whatever you want to call it, it arrives quietly. It doesn't usually come as a booming voice from the clouds.
Whatever.
It arrives as an intuitive nudge to take a different route to work, where you happen to bump into someone important. It arrives as a chance snippet of conversation overheard in the coffee shop. It arrives as a subtle, physical sensation in your stomach telling you to walk away from a deal that looks perfect on paper.
The algorithm does not need you present. The algorithm only needs your eyeballs, your clicks, and your outrage. But your soul requires your presence. You cannot receive a beautiful life if you are too distracted to notice it passing by. I want you to sit with this reality. Is the version of yourself that digital distraction leaves behind the version you want to offer to the people you love?
That brings us right back to the quiet grief you felt on your couch. Recognizing the cost of our absence is painful, but recognizing it is the necessary first step. The beautiful truth about the human brain and the human spirit is neuroplasticity.
We can rewire it.
Exactly. We are not broken. We can reclaim this. We can train the muscle of presence just like we train a muscle in the gym. So let's move out of the problem and into the practical tools.
Yes. We have 5 distinct tools for you today. And the first tool is the presence audit. And we are going to do this right now, together in real time. This is an exercise in radical self-awareness, and the only rule is that you must do it without judgment. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I am going to leave silence for you to actually feel the answer in your body.
Wherever you are right now, driving your car, walking the dog, washing the dishes, sitting at your desk, just bring your awareness entirely to the sound of my voice.
I want to ask you, where is your attention right now? Just take a second, notice it right now.
Are you truly here, fully inhabiting your physical body in this specific environment? Or is a part of you somewhere else? Let that settle. Notice your body.
If you found that you were somewhere else, what pulled you away? Was it a ruminating worry about the future, a replay of a conversation from yesterday, a phantom urge to check a device? Give yourself a moment to identify it.
Just witness what it was.
Just notice it. Noticing that exact moment of recognizing your mind wandered is the very first repetition of building the muscle of presence. You have just returned your attention.
That is incredibly powerful. Just breaking the autopilot for 10 seconds changes the chemistry of the brain. The second tool is what we call the sacred threshold. This is a practice of using your physical environment to consciously cue your internal state.
I utilize this practice every single day. The idea is to choose one physical doorway or transition point in your daily life. It could be your physical front door when you come home from work. It could be the doorway to your bedroom before you go to sleep. It could even be the physical act of closing your laptop lid at the end of the workday. You designate this physical object as a sacred threshold.
Because humans respond deeply to liminal spaces, the spaces between. We need rituals to transition from one identity to another.
Exactly. So what you do is, before you cross that physical threshold or before you close that lid, you force yourself to pause. You stop walking. You take one deep, intentional breath, and you silently say to yourself, I arrive here fully.
It is a deliberate, conscious transition. You are declaring that you are leaving the frantic energy of the workday, the stress of the commute, the frenetic energy of the digital world behind you. You are choosing to enter the next space with your full, undivided being. If it's your front door, you are making a conscious decision that the people inside that house are going to get the real you, not a stressed out, distracted, fragmented ghost of you.
Our third tool focuses on breaking the deep physiological addiction we have to constant stimulation. We call this phone-free presence pockets and embracing boredom.
Cal Newport talks extensively about the absolute necessity of embracing boredom. And the goal here is not that being bored is somehow a magical, enlightened state. The goal is that you must break the Pavlovian loop your brain has formed. Right now, for most of us, the very millisecond we feel a lack of novel stimuli, the moment we stand in a grocery line or wait for a meeting to start or sit at a red light, our brain screams, give me the phone, give me the slot machine, give me dopamine.
If you always give in to that urge, your brain literally learns that boredom is an intolerable, unsafe state that must be immediately medicated with a screen. You have to actively train your brain that it is safe and acceptable to just exist without input.
So how do we do that practically? What does a presence pocket look like?
You intentionally create 15-minute device-free pockets in your day. 15 minutes where you drink your morning coffee or take a walk around the block or fold the laundry, and your phone is physically located in an entirely different room. You will feel the itch. You will feel genuine psychological discomfort. Your brain will try to convince you that you are missing an emergency email. That is the feeling of withdrawal. You have to let it happen and write it out.
There's a massive biological payoff for writing out that withdrawal,
Yeah.
which connects to a fascinating neurological mechanism Huberman discusses called gap effects.
Yes, this is crucial. We used to think that the brain only consolidated memory and rewired itself during deep sleep. But neuroscientists have found that accelerated learning and neural rewiring actually happen during waking moments of deep rest, these gaps where you are awake but not taking in new external stimuli.
Walk me through what is actually happening in the brain during a gap effect.
When you are just staring out the window, completely unplugged, your hippocampus, the center of memory and learning, is actively replaying and consolidating the information you learned earlier in the day. And it does this at roughly 20 to 30 times the normal speed. It's like fast-forwarding a movie to integrate the plot. When you constantly fill every spare second with noise, you actively block your brain's ability to run this process. You inhibit your brain's ability to learn, to process your life, and to generate those spontaneous creative insights. You absolutely need those empty pockets of time for your brain to do its most important, invisible work.
That completely changes how I view staring blankly at a wall. It's not wasted time, it's necessary biological maintenance. Which leads us to our fourth tool, which brings us back to our relationships. We call this attention dedication and the loving redirect.
Before you enter into a conversation with someone you care about, your partner, your child, a colleague, take a fraction of a second to silently dedicate your attention to them. Frame it in your mind not as a polite obligation, but as a profound act of love. You are giving them the single most valuable finite currency you possess, your presence.
But let's be realistic. You dedicate your attention, you start the conversation, and 2 minutes later your brain wanders. You suddenly remember an email you forgot to send.
And that is where the loving redirect comes in, bringing us full circle to the philosophy of William James. When your mind wanders, and it absolutely will because you are human, how you react to that wandering is everything. The instinct is to shame yourself. I'm so distracted, I'm a terrible listener. Do not shame yourself.
Why is shame so destructive in that moment?
Because shame triggers a stress response. It floods your system with cortisol. Cortisol creates physical tension, and tension pulls you even further out of presence. When you notice your mind wandering, you must gently, lovingly redirect it back to the person in front of you. Look at the color of their eyes. Listen to the specific cadence of their voice. Notice the rise and fall of their breathing. The practice of presence is not achieving a state of perfect, unbroken, monk-like focus. That is biologically impossible. The practice is the return.
That is so freeing. The practice is the return. Every single time you bring your attention back from the distraction to the person in front of you, you are doing a mental push-up. You are actively building the muscle of your character and your will, just as William James prescribed.
Finally, our fifth tool involves applying Cal Newport's deep work strategies to your broader life, specifically to protect your presence in the evening. Newport talks about the vital shift from a push-based system to a pull-based system and how we manage our obligations.
This sounds a bit corporate, but it applies to everything. Explain the difference between push and pull.
A push-based system is how most of us live. Everyone, your boss, your family, marketers, is just pushing tasks, emails, and demands at you all day, and you are constantly juggling and reacting to them in real time. You are living in a state of defensive reaction. A pull-based system is where you clearly define a boundary. You decide what you are actively working on, maybe just 2 or 3 things, and everything else waits in a designated queue. You only pull a new task into your active awareness when you have fully finished the previous one.
And why does a pull-based system matter for presence?
Because of the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is a psychological principle that states people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. If you are constantly managing a dozen open, unfinished loops in your head, your brain will never truly let you shut down. It will keep pinging you with reminders of what's undone. This is why Newport heavily advocates for a strict physical shutdown ritual at the end of the day.
Closing the open loops. I do a version of this. You review your tasks, you write down a quick plan for tomorrow so your brain knows it's handled, and you explicitly, perhaps even verbally, declare the workday over. You shut the laptop, and you might actually say out loud, "Shutdown complete."
The purpose of that ritual is essentially cognitive behavioral therapy for your own nervous system. You are convincing your primitive brain that it is safe to stop ruminating about survival and work. If you don't actively close those open loops, they bleed into your evening. You will be sitting at the dinner table with your family, and your brain will be trying to solve a logistical work problem from 3 p.m. The shutdown ritual builds a firewall. It creates the clean mental space required to be fully, radically present with the people you love at night.
These 5 tools, the presence audit, the sacred threshold, the phone-free pockets to trigger gap effects, the loving redirect, and the shutdown ritual to close open loops, these are the tangible mechanics of reclaiming your life from the attention economy.
And now, we want to move from the intellectual mechanics into the felt, bodily experience. We want to anchor this teaching in your nervous system before we go. Let's transition into a guided visualization. I invite you to slow your pace right now. If you are in a place where it is safe to do so, let your eyes softly close. If you are driving or walking, just soften your gaze and work your internal awareness to your chest. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, expanding your ribs. And exhale gently through your mouth. I'll give you a second to just land there.
Just breathe.
I want you to imagine your attention, your vital life force, as a warm, radiant, golden light. This light naturally resides right in the center of your chest, in your heart space. Right now, I want you to acknowledge the scattered threads of this light. See how your energy has been pulled outward in a dozen different directions. See one thread of golden light pulled far out toward your phone, caught in the endless, exhausting scroll of other people's lives. See another thread stretched out thin toward tomorrow, tied up tightly in anxiety about a meeting, a deadline, or a difficult conversation. Take a moment to see that.
Acknowledge where the energy has leaked.
See yet another thread reaching backward, hooked stubbornly into an unfinished email or a regret from yesterday. See how your light is fragmented. See how your energy is dispersed, leaving the center feeling hollow and drained. Now, with a slow, deliberate breath, I want you to begin the practice of return. I want you to begin reeling those threads back in.
Bring it back.
Inhale deeply and feel the thread attached to your phone gently detach. Watch it glide smoothly back into your chest. Inhale again and feel the thread of tomorrow's anxiety loosen its grip, retracting and returning to the center of your being. Inhale and draw back the energy spent ruminating on the past. Call it back to the present moment. Feel all of the scattered, fragmented light returning home to your chest.
Notice how the light in your center is becoming noticeably warmer. Notice how the frequency is becoming steadier, less frantic. Notice how it is becoming brilliantly bright now that it is whole and gathered.
Rest for a moment in this feeling of gathered, unified presence. This gathered energy is your creative power. This is your will. Now, in your mind's eye, envision one person or one deeply held dream or one creative endeavor in your life that truly deserves your full, undivided presence. See them clearly in front of you. And now, gently, without any force or strain, simply cast that unified golden light toward them. Feel the profound warmth, the deep relational resonance of giving them the absolute entirety of your focus.
Hold on to that feeling.
As we conclude this visualization, repeat this affirmation silently to yourself, letting it resonate in your chest. My attention is mine, my presence is powerful, I return to what matters.
Let that settle into your body. Feel the gravity of your feet. And when you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room around you.
That feeling of wholeness, that gathered light, that is what we are fighting for. Let's recap the journey we've taken today because we have covered a tremendous amount of ground.
We started by confronting the quiet grief of the modern condition, the painful reality of being physically present in a room, but mentally absent from the people we love, severing the biological tether between us. We explored how the attention economy has made this scattered feeling the default state of our lives.
We looked back at the survival story of William James, who taught us that the act of returning our wandering attention is not just a trick to get more work done, but the very foundation of building our character and exercising our free will in the world.
We bridged that philosophy with modern neuroscience, understanding how multi-armed bandit algorithms hijack our dopamine systems, forcing our mental stagehands to constantly switch tasks, keeping us in a state of continuous partial attention, and subjecting us to the exhausting anxiety of solitude deprivation.
And we remembered through the lens of spiritual wisdom that presence is the ultimate creative power. Where attention goes, energy flows. We cannot manifest a beautiful life. We cannot recognize the subtle, intuitive cues of the universe if our attention is constantly being harvested and fractured.
So we gave you the practical mechanics to fight back, the presence audit to build self-awareness, the sacred threshold to consciously cue your transitions, the phone-free presence pockets to embrace the withdrawal of boredom and allow your hippocampus to utilize gap effects, the attention, dedication, and the loving redirect to build the muscle of focus without the toxicity of shame, and the deep work strategy of the shutdown ritual to close open loops.
This brings us to your weekly action step. We want you to take all of this theory, all of this science, and ground it in one specific, undeniable daily reality.
Here is your assignment for the week. Choose one daily moment. It could be drinking your first cup of coffee in the quiet of the morning. It could be eating dinner with your family. It could be the 20 minutes you spend taking your dog for a walk. Just choose one moment. And for that entire designated time, be entirely phone-free and fully, radically present.
You will notice the resistance. You will notice the phantom itch to check the screen. When it happens, use the loving redirect to bring yourself back. And more importantly, if you are doing this practice with another human being, I want you to actively notice how your deep listening physically shifts the energy of the room. Watch their body language. Notice how their shoulders drop, how their voice changes when they subconsciously realize they have your absolute undivided attention.
That one small daily practice is how you begin to reclaim your sovereignty, which leads us to a final provocative thought for you to carry into your week.
We have established today that the defining most valuable currency of the modern world is not money, and it's not oil. It is human attention. Trillions of dollars are spent by the smartest engineers on Earth trying to capture and extract yours.
So if attention is the ultimate currency, then perhaps the ultimate act of rebellion, and the truest, most profound expression of freedom you can possibly exercise today, is choosing to keep your attention entirely for yourself and for the people and the moments right in front of you.
What kind of revolution could you start in your own life, in the intimacy of your own home and your own creative potential, just by making the radical, defiant choice to look up?
Think about the light shifting across the floorboards. Think about the physical proof of your own breath in the cold morning air. Think of the people sitting across the table from you. The entire world is happening right here, right now, in this exact frequency. Thank you for walking this path with us today. Wherever you are, remember that you are exactly where you are meant to be. We'll see you next time.